Do you have a tendency to bite your tongue and to hide your true feelings and personality? Then we need to talk. Hi, my name is Henrike Schmidt. I am the Whole Brain Coach, and I produce videos about neurocoaching and science-based strategies for everyday life. Today, I want to look at something very important, and that is authenticity. Because doing the opposite, pretending to be somebody you're not, pretending to think something that you don't think, is actually short-circuiting your brain and is preventing you from leading a really effective, happy, fulfilling life. There's actually a really funny scene in Afterlife by Ricky Gervais where his character Tony is going out for coffee with his ad sales colleague Kath, and on the way to the coffee shop they bump into a barrister and Tony kind of sets the two up on a date. Kath and Tony end up in the coffee shop and she starts to have second thoughts because after all she's working for a free local newspaper as an ad salesperson and he's a barrister. So she asks Tony, who would a lawyer want me to be? And Tony's response, be yourself. Tell the truth, always the truth. So do you think Kath takes his advice? Of course she doesn't. So this lie-filled date that she goes on is an absolute disaster. And she never gets to figure out whether she would have liked the guy. Just picturing this date in your head, you can imagine how cringy, how exhausting, how stressful that kind of situation is, where you're juggling lies, where you're asked details that you can't supply. And there's a reason why that sort of thing feels so exhausting. There's an area in your brain that is like a built-in assessment center, lie detector, and accountant all rolled into one. And this part of your brain is located in one of your most energy-hungry pieces of real estate, your prefrontal cortex. That's your clever brain, the part of your brain that is right behind your forehead and your eyes. Your brain accountant is constantly checking that what it's expecting to happen and what is happening match up, what you're thinking and feeling internally and what you're saying and doing aligns. And when those don't align, you're constantly activating your accountant and it starts guzzling energy like a 1950s fridge. Now imagine you're not feeling comfortable about speaking up about something at work, and you're carrying this frustration and disappointment with you for days, maybe even for weeks. Imagine you're biting your tongue about something that your partner's done that really annoyed you. Or imagine being volunteered for a project or an activity, something maybe to do with your kid's school. All of this resentment, all of those misalignments are triggering your brain accountant and is draining your energy. And when your mental energy is depleted like that all the time, it's like a hole in your bucket. It doesn't matter how much you try and refill it, it keeps leaking out that way. And when your bucket is constantly empty, you lose your ability to problem solve, to plan for the future, even to objectively risk assess. And this level of stress is reducing your ability to empathize with others and feel compassion for them. So that's making connecting with others virtually impossible. So what's the solution? Stop doing it, duh. Yeah, okay, but how? In step one, we're again reaching for pen and paper because I want you to really take note of what's going on when you're contemplating biting your tongue, when you're contemplating telling a white lie or a black one. So I want you to write down the answers to these three questions. Number one, what's going on right now? Number two, what am I afraid of? And number three is, how would this situation actually benefit from me being honest and authentic? Write these things down. Do it for a little while and you will start to see certain trends emerge, certain situations in which you pull back. certain feelings that make you pull back. And the crucial point is really to think about, even retrospectively, how the situation would have been different had you just said what you needed to say, had you just said what you wanted to say, because that's going to form different neural connections in your brain. It's going to make it easier and easier to stop shying away from being authentic. In step 2, you plan a different response. So after you've done step 1, you're going to notice certain situations in which you always do that. So how could you do it differently? Plan in advance. For example, how can I diplomatically tell my boss about certain problems that I foresee coming up in connection with a certain project or a strategy that she has planned? So instead of going in and saying, that won't work, why not try a fear brain calming strategy instead? Because your boss also has a brain. So why not try going in and asking permission? May I play devil's advocate for a second here? So you're doing two things. You're asking permission to say something. And the second thing is, you're telling her you're going to play a role. So you get to say what you want to say, but you're still on her side. You're just playing the role of devil's advocate.
You're not really her adversary.
And in step 3, we're making truth-telling our new habit. Habits are like energy-saving shortcuts for our brains, and they strengthen with repetition. So if you practice steps 1 and 2 consistently, you will automatically wire this new behavior into your system. And by doing so, giving your prefrontal cortex, your energy guzzlers, a bit of a break. And there's even research evidence that suggests that truth-telling actually strengthens your prefrontal cortex and its connections to your emotional brain. So it makes it easier for you to downregulate your emotional responses, to become centered and calm and more effective.
So if your problem is biting your tongue all the time, here are your 3 steps. But if your problem has more to do with you worrying about what other people think of you, then you need to watch this video.